Most people think Windows 365 is just about streaming the full desktop from the cloud. But what if I told you don't actually need a desktop? Because for most frontline or shift or seasonal workers, all they actually need is applications, Teams, Outlook, and maybe a custom ERP or CRM system. Instead of provisioning hundreds of full cloud PCs, you just stream the applications directly from the cloud. No long logons, no storage costs, no overhead. Users get the apps they need, IT simplified management through Intune and Enter ID. And the finance team, they only pay for the concurrent usage, not for every single employee. Here's the twist. It's a completely new model that could cut your Windows 365 costs by more than half. Now, before we dive in, it's important to know that Windows 365 Cloud Apps is currently in public preview. And that means Microsoft is still testing and adding features, and there's some limitations that you need to be aware of. Cloud Apps only discovers the application executables in the device images start menu that aren't installed by AppX or MSX packages. So as a result, Cloud Apps doesn't currently support Microsoft Teams. You can't edit a Cloud Apps icon path. You can link an auto-powered device preparation policy, but you can't publish Intune apps as Cloud Apps. If you want to publish applications that aren't pre-installed on the Windows 365 gallery images, you need to use a custom image. And when you upload a custom image, Cloud Apps uses a PowerShell script to scan the start menu for applications. So if your tenant requires extra authentication for PowerShell, discovery might fail. This preview is about testing the concept, not production rollout. So once it hits GA, Microsoft plans to add support for AppX, MSX, icon editing, and full Intune application publishing. All right, let's jump into the Intune portal, deploy some Cloud Apps, and see how it all works in real time. Then we'll come back for a deeper dive into licensing, because once you've seen it in action, the licensing is going to make a lot more sense. Welcome, this is the Virtual Mac YouTube channel, and on this channel we review the latest features on Azure Virtual Desktop, Intune, Windows 365, Nerdio, and much more. If this is the type of content that you like, please click that like and subscribe button to bring fresh content every single week. So let's now go into the portal and deploy some. I've already done some testing, but I'll go through the whole process end to end for you again. Okay, I'm just going to go into the Intune portal here. We need to create a provisioning policy. You need to have licenses available, right? This requires the Frontline license. If you do want to test it, make sure you got some Frontline licenses available. You can get a 30-day trial, so that's what I've done. So if you want to play around with it just for 30 days and just to kick the tires, then you can do. Okay, all right. We'll go into licensing after this, by the way. I'm just going to do a bit of a deep dive because that's probably the most important and the most confusing thing. So we need to go to Intune portal, and then we need to go to the Windows 365. This is managed the same way as you would with existing desktops. So you can see here, we've got this new All Cloud Apps icon. We need to, first of all, create a provisioning policy. Okay, so here's one that I'll just do for testing earlier. So I get 2 licenses with the trial. So I've just used up one of those licenses just for testing, just to make sure it works. We'll go through and I'll do that now. All right, we're going to create a policy. So we'll do this Windows Win 365 Cloud YouTube. Okay, and then we're going to access. So this is the bit which is different from what you normally do, right? Normally, if you set up Frontline licenses or full Windows 365 desktops, you say access full desktop. But what we've got now is we've got this access only apps which run on a cloud PC. I'm just going to select that, and you can see here that's automatically selected it to Frontline, right? If I didn't have any Frontline licenses, that won't be available. And you can see here we now have Frontline shared, right? So again, it's forcing it into that Frontline shared mode. Okay, we're going to do Enter ID join, and we're going to do a Microsoft hosted network just for simplicity. But obviously, if you had applications which required access to your own internal network, that's why you go down this Azure network connection or VPN from the device into that network. We're going to do UK. I'm going to do single sign-on as well. We want to have the best experience for that. All right, that's our provisioning policy settings. Just to reiterate, we are selecting only applications, so Frontline license, and then we're doing Frontline shared mode. All right, so I'm looking next. If you had a custom image in there, I don't have one, but if you've got custom applications that you need to have installed, you basically use it there. Maybe we'll do another video of how to do that. For now, we can just use the gallery image. So we just need to select one. Let's first select the latest one. So we're going to do Windows 25 H2. And you can see there, we've got the enterprise. I'm going to select with M365 apps, just so we can publish some M365 apps as well. All right, so I'm going to select the select button, apps available image. So what that's actually going to do is look on the actual image and then show me what applications are available on that image. Okay, so we'll click view. We'll give it a second. And you can see here, we now have a list of those applications. So these are the applications that you'll be able to make available to publish to the user. So we'll probably just do Microsoft Word or something, just for simplicity. All right, so we don't select the applications here. That's just giving us a list of the applications. All right, so we're going to select next, Windows settings. So we're going to select United Kingdom for that. If you need custom device naming, you can select that here, but we'll just leave it as default. Now, you can also use autopilot. The important thing is we don't save any information on the VMs, right? They're literally just thrown away and reprovisioned. What this enables us to do, if you've got any configuration that you need to put on there, obviously in the future you'll be able to support application delivery and all that kind of stuff. If you need any specific configuration that you have to put on that device before the user is available, we can use Windows Autopilot. Again, maybe that's worth another video in the future to go through that process and configuring that and just see what that looks like, okay? All right, so let's go next. We're not going to use any tags for this environment, so we don't need those. Assignments. This is where we're going to assign the groups. I've already pre-created a group, so I'm just going to select that. This is where you put your users into the group, where you want the application to publish to. So I'm just going to go to here. So Windows 365 Frontline Shared Mode only supports one group per provisioning policy. So Windows 365 Cloud Apps. So I've already got this one here. Okay. So I'm going to select that group there. And then we're going to select the Cloud PC size. The available sizes are, you can see here, these are the licenses which I've purchased. So Cloud PC, TCPU, 8 gigs of RAM. One of the advantages that you're getting from this is, imagine if I was provisioning this for a user. I'd need to provision maybe, I don't know, 4 CPU and 60 gigs of RAM. But because this is only going to be publishing the applications, we can use a much lower SKU, right? So there's cost savings there as well, okay? Because I'm only going to use less memory. So Cloud PC is 1. So assignment name. So we'll do this YouTube test. YouTube test. A number of Cloud PCs, 1. Now, choose a number of Cloud PCs that should be provisioned and a friendly name for the assignment. Provision the appropriate number of Cloud PCs based on the available licenses and the number of users and expected maximum number of users connecting at any given time. That's the important thing that you need to remember, right? Imagine if I expect 100 users accessing the applications, then I need to make sure, number one, I've got enough frontline licenses for 100 users. And number two, we've got that number of Cloud PCs set to 100 in here because each user is going to use their own Cloud PC. It's not like with Azure Virtual Desktop Remote App where I can have multiple users using like a single session host. That's not the case here. We need to make sure the number of Cloud PCs available and the maximum number of concurrent users. Okay, really important to remember. So I've got 1 license available, so I'm just going to select 1. In my scenario, I can only support 1. We're going to select next, review and create. That's going to create these Cloud PCs. Okay, and then from there we'll be able to publish the applications. So click create. You can see there. That's created that provisioning policy. If I refresh, that's there now. And if I click on Windows 365 YouTube, that's there now. So you can see there. So go to properties, go to devices, and you can see there those devices are now being provisioned. Okay. So that takes either an hour or so to do. But this is why I've done it earlier. So let me just go and explain to you what I've done earlier. So once that's provisioned, you'll see here I've got this Windows 365 Cloud Apps here. I've got my license type set Frontline. It's assigned to the group. Okay, so there's not much really we can do from a provisioning perspective. Okay, all right. So now the difference being is normally you go to Cloud PCs to manage those Cloud PCs, but you can see what I now do. So let me just show you. So this here is assigned to the Windows 365 Cloud Apps. This device is the one which holds my applications, which I'm going to launch the apps from. So if I go to all Cloud Apps, right, now you can see there we've got the new one that we just selected, but this is the existing ones that we've got, right? So you can see here I've got Edge, I've got Publisher, I've got Sticky Notes, I've got PowerPoint, for example. So by default, we don't publish any applications. You can see we've got ready to publish 31 applications. This is the one I was doing earlier for testing, okay? So to make an application available for the user, all we need to do is to basically publish that. Okay. So let's go and do that now. So I'm going to select Edge. You can see we've got the command path and the command line, And so you can see we can't edit any of this in the moment. This is what we're talking about with the limitations, which is fine. So we're just going to go here and then we're going to go publish. So users will be able to access cloud apps in the clients. So publish. That application has now been published. What I should be able to do now is if I head over to my Windows app, I should see that application and then I should be able to launch it. So let's do it. This is my Windows app. So you can see here, I've got my devices. These are just desktops, my AVD desktops. To use the applications, you actually got a separate tab down here where it says apps. So I'm going to select that. And we can see there, we've got Excel, which I was just testing with previously. If I just refresh that now, you can see I've also got Microsoft Edge now. Okay. So let's go and launch Excel, for example. You can see there, similar scenario that you would do with a desktop. The only reason is we're just doing the applications. So you can see there, and that's logging into the device, preparing Windows. The other thing to mention as well at the moment is there's no profile management at the moment. So watch this space because your settings aren't changed. Essentially, you're logging onto a different device each time and then everything's wiped, right? But Microsoft will be addressing that in the future. That's a limitation for now. You can see at the bottom of the screen, it's a cloud app, but I'll put a screenshot on there to show you what that looks like. So now let's go and try and launch Microsoft Edge and see what that experience is like. You can see that was a lot quicker because that was the initial application that I deployed, but you can see here now it's a lot quicker to launch that, and every application I'll launch beyond that will be quicker as well. Okay, using remote apps has always been less resources, so it's the same scenario here like with cloud apps. In theory, you could have to use lower SKUs because you're not using as much resources because you're only actually launching the application. Obviously, the VM's still running, but it'll be less usage if you're just using the remote app. So yeah, that's Windows 365 cloud apps in action. So pretty useful. There are quite a few limitations for it at the moment, but the most important thing and the reason why most people are going to be interested in is the licensing. In the next section, we'll talk about licensing in a bit more detail because it is a bit confusing, but once you get your head around it, it makes sense. All right, so let's go and do that now. Let's make sense of the licensing because this is the part which really decides whether cloud apps will save you money or not. The key thing to understand is that cloud apps use Windows 365 Frontline licensing. It's not a new license type, it's the same one that's used for Windows 365 Frontline Cloud PCs. And that license is built around the idea of concurrency. So how many users are active at the same time? Let's imagine you've got 100 employees, but not all 100 are working at once. Maybe you've got 3 shifts, morning, afternoon, evening, with around 30 or 40 people active in each shift. With a traditional Windows 365 Enterprise license, you only have to buy 100 licenses, one for every single person. But with Frontline, you only buy enough to cover your concurrent users. So each Windows 365 Frontline license actually comes covered up to 3 named users, but only one can be active at a time. So to cover 100 people, you divide that by 3, meaning you only need about 33 Frontline licenses. Now, Cloud Apps takes that same Frontline license and applies it at the application level. Instead of users spinning up full desktop for hours, they're streaming the apps they need, maybe for 30 minutes or an hour. Because those sessions are lighter and shorter, current usage goes down further, meaning those same 33 licenses can often cover more than 100 people across the different shifts. In simple terms, you're paying for activity, not headcount, and because Cloud App sessions are shorter and more efficient, your cost per user drops even further. It's the same Frontline license, you size it based on concurrent users, and the Cloud Apps reduce those current numbers, concurrent user numbers, because users spend less time connected. It's predictable and it's built for frontline or shared device scenarios, not power users sitting on those cloud PCs all day. So now let's talk about how Windows 365 Cloud Apps compares to Azure Virtual Desktop Remote Apps, because that's what people are asking. Both let you deliver individual apps instead of full desktops, but under the hood, they're completely different. With AVD Remote Apps, you're running the infrastructure yourself. You create session hosting your own Azure subscription. You manage the images, scaling, networking, storage, and the FH object profiles. You pay for the compute and storage directly in Azure. So when the session hosts are running, you build by the minute. It gives you full flexibility and control, but it also means that you need to manage and optimize it yourself. With Windows 365 Cloud Apps, all of that infrastructure is managed by Microsoft. So there's no host pools, there's no session hosts, there's no scaling plans. It's fully managed SaaS service that runs inside Microsoft environment. You're just provisioning it in Intune, publish your apps, assign your licensing, off you go. You pay a predicted monthly price based on your Windows 365 Frontline licenses. There's no variable cost involved. AVD remote apps equals maximum control, but variable cost and management overhead. Cloud apps equals minimum management, but fixed cost and less flexibility. AVD remote apps is ideal for when you need to deliver legacy or custom applications or connect to on-prem resources, or you want full control over VM sizing and networking and profiles. Windows 365 Cloud Apps is perfect for frontline shift workers who need secure access to bits of apps like Teams, Outlook, or line-of-based applications, where you want simplicity, predictive pricing, and Intune-based management. So think of AVD infrastructure, you manage it in your own tenant. Cloud Apps is a service you subscribe to in Microsoft tenant. One gives you control, the other gives you convenience. If you need deep integration or complex networking, remote apps is still the right choice. If you want something that's fast, secure, and easy to scale up without touching any Azure VMs, Cloud Apps may be as simple as it gets. So, what's the right choice for you? If your users need full Windows experience all day, or your apps need deep backend connectivity or complicated configuration, stick with Azure Virtual Desktop. It gives you complete control, flexible sizing, and deep integration with your existing infrastructure. But if you're supporting frontline, shift, or seasonal workers who just need quick, secure access to business applications, Windows 365 Cloud Apps could be the game changer for you. It's simpler to manage, faster to deploy, and far more predictable when it comes to costs. Right now, it's still in public preview, so now is the time to test it, pilot it, see how it performs with your workforce, and then start planning how the model could fit into your digital workspace strategy once it hits general availability. Because make no mistake, this is Microsoft hinging at where application delivery is going. A world where you don't need a full desktop, you just need applications streamed securely from the cloud managed by Microsoft. If you found this breakdown useful, drop a comment below and let me know what you think. Could Cloud Apps replace remote apps in your environment, or is AVD still a better fit for you? There's no right answer. It all depends on how you work in your environment. That's the Windows Cloud Apps or Windows 365 Cloud Apps overview. I hope you found it useful. I've certainly learned stuff while I've been researching and filming this video, but I like Cloud Apps. I think it's a good, nice, simple solution. As we're all aware, like setting up an AVD environment, like setting up remote apps can be a complicated process. So if you want a nice, simple solution, if your application requirements are quite simple, then Cloud Apps could be a really good solution for you. But obviously, if you've got any complicated application scenarios, you're probably still going to need to look at Azure Virtual Desktop remote apps. But again, that's what Windows 365 is all about, right? It's all about those really simple scenarios. So if you're in that bucket, then this is a great solution to look at. So yeah, that's it from me this week. I hope you found this video useful. And if you did, please click the like and subscribe button. And I'll see you next week for another one. Thank you. Goodbye.